After a year out in the WRC, in which the European Rally Championship moved down south towards Silesia, it's back to the gravel, it's back to Mikołajki. Welcome to the fourth round of the ERC, the 81st All-in-Oil Rally Poland Rajd Polski 2025. And you could say that this year is a special one in Mikołajki. I believe it's 20 years since the first edition of Rally Poland to be held up towards the northeast of Poland. And it's being celebrated with the fact that Krzysztof Hołowczyk is going to be the course car driver this time around as well. He'll be behind the wheel of a Fabia RS Rally 2. And it's really nice to see something like that going on in an ERC event, because it means you're engaging with the history of the event as well. So, whilst we'll see cars going through the Mikołajki arena a couple of times over the course of the event, there are lots of bits in this event that are going to represent the past, the present, and perhaps even the future of this historic rally. And you can look no further than the entry list to find evidence of this. Let's start off in seeding order with the Rally 2 cars. Rupa Koiranen is the number 1 seed, unsurprisingly, is the championship leader, but second seed is Martin Sesks. Sesks is going to be behind the wheel of a Team RF Tyres Skoda Fabia RS Rally 2, different to the Ford Puma Rally 1 he's driving in the WRC this season. But it's a part-time program. He's not contracted necessarily to M Sport. It's one of those things where it's a deal that will come from funding with the promoter and so on and so forth. So he's free to drive in this event. Third seed's the leading home star, Miko Marcek. Then we have Mats Osberg, Andrea Mabellini, Isaac Riesen, Mila Johansson, John Armstrong, Jos Verstappen, and Stefan Lefebvre rounding out the top 10 seeds of this event. After that, we have Sasa Ole, Simona Tempestini, Jakub Matulka, Philip Allen, Roberto Blach, Martin Licek, Andras Hadek, Max McRae, and Martin Laszlo. After that, we get into a lot more of the national drivers. So Jarosław Szejda, Gregor Zip, who we have seen in the ERC a few times before, Jakub Brzezinski, Jarosław Kwoten, who we have seen at numerous different events. I believe we've seen him in WRC as well this season. Zbigniew Gabrish, Łukasz Piskunevich. I'm butchering some of these names, and I'm aware, I'm sorry. Krzysztof Bubnik, Piotr Krotoszyński, and then we also... I've glossed over the fact that somebody like Bubik, for example, are in a Fabia R5, but the last one on this list I'm not going to gloss over. David Tomek, Tomasz Osiepa, Dariusz Budzinski, Wojciech Muział, and then, not entered for the ERC, but this is the strange one. This driver is not entered for the ERC, it's entered in a Rally 2 car, but it's a very old Rally 2 car, to the point that it's even predating getting the R5 banner put on it. Thomas Palicic is going to be behind the wheel of a Peugeot 208 T16. It isn't eligible for the ERC because of its homologation date. That run has expired. And in fact, I mean, it's the most recent Rally 2 that Peugeot have, but in terms of PSA stable, you could argue it was first replaced by the regional rally car DS3. And then that was replaced with a Citroën C3. It's so strange, but so fascinating to see one of these entered in the event. On to Rally 3 now. We have 13 different entries. Unsurprisingly, 10 of them are Ford Fiesta Rally 3s. That is because the Ford Fiesta Rally 3 is built out of M Sport Poland. The opposite side of the country, it's down in Kraków, but at the same time, it's the M Sport Fiesta Rally 3 trophy. So it's not surprising that 10 out of the 13 are Fiestas. Justin Charpentier will be leading that order, followed by Igor Widwak, then Timotej Jablonowski, who won last time out in Sweden, Adrian Zeznik, and then we get into the Clios. Ville Vatanen, Wojciech Gajda, Hubert Kowalczyk, and then we get back into the Fords. Esma Arnold Dunt, Casey J. Coleman, Adam Gran, Adam Schrocker, Adrian Buda, and Dejesh Bienko. A couple of these drivers we haven't seen in the ERC so far this season, but most of them are going to be familiar to you. Going into Rally 4, we'll go into Rally 5 in a minute as well, because both of them are covered by ERC 4. In the Rally 4s, all but one of the 18 entries are also entered for Junior ERC. That one is at the end, so we'll get to that one. Kalle Karlberg is the top seed, followed by Jasper Vara in the leading Lancia Ypsilon Rally 4 HF. Most of these, in fact, all but two of these, are Stellantis group. I'll point out the non-Stellantis ones as well, because then we have Sergei Perez, who was the winner in the first round of the season in a Peugeot. Then the next of Peugeots as well, Matteo Doretto, Johan Lloyd, Victor Hansen, Craig Rahill, and then we get back to the courses for Luca Prulguf and Levi Lasilla. Back to the Peugeots for Tommaso Sandrin, Aoife Raftery, and Keelan Grogan. Back to a Corsa for Simon Anderson. Duka Kolpinen is down at the 59th seed for the event in a Lancia. Maxime Ducoq behind the wheel of an Opel Corsa. Then our first non-Stellantis, Marky Gatit behind the wheel of the Team Estonia Autosport Ford Fiesta Rally 4. Then our last Stellantis one, which is Francesco De Secchi behind the wheel of a 208. And then we have Brendan Comiskey behind the wheel of a Ford Fiesta Rally 4. And the Rally 5, well, it's Artur Luca, who is behind the wheel of Clio Rally 5, entered for Junior ERC and ERC 4, but the Rally 5 is slower than the Rally 4, so don't expect it to be setting the stage times alight. In addition to this, we have some other categories available, for example, the Historic class, where we have 3 cars. Marcin Macha behind the wheel of a Legacy 4-wheel drive turbo, Andrzej Galitovic behind the wheel of a ST205 Celica GT4, and Andrzej Bukowski behind the wheel of an M3 E36. We then also have the Nat 2 for Daniel Godlewski, who's driving an Evo 9, and the Nat 3 for Damian Jakubowiak behind the wheel of BMW 316 Ti Compact E46, and I assume a similar one because it says BMW E46 Compact for Mateusz Kopka. There are also, if you look at EWRC, ones that are classes 2, 3 and 4. These are the Rally 2s, Rally 3s and Rally 4s that are driven by Polish drivers. That is because it is a round of the Polish Championship as well as being a round of the ERC. And it means that they can score it based off of the people who are entered for the event who are competing in the National Championship as well as for the European Championship. This is something that's becoming a lot more standard standard process even in ERC events. It's something that we saw, for example, with Rally Karadegian, where it was a BRC round, but typically you'd find people entered for one and not the other. In the case of the ERC last year, I believe John Armstrong was actually entered for both because, well, they decided that he was going to help out the title bid in that one for who was it again? It was another Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy driver, wasn't it? Of course, it was William Crichton. Now let's talk about the stages, and the event will be spread over 3 different days. Friday night the action gets underway, and then we get 2 full days of action, ending with the arrival of the start-finish podium at about 5:30 local time on Sunday the 15th of June. On the Friday, we will have the qualifying stage, that is Baranovo. This stage has been extended from when it was previously the shakedown stage of the ERC. It was 3.46 kilometers then. It's nearly doubled. It's 6.3 kilometers this year. Some of these roads were used in the WRC last season as well, but the ones that were used in WRC last season were the same as in the shakedown. So for some drivers, it might actually be a bit newer. I think the last time that the full length of the qualifying stage was used will probably go back to 2018. Then on the Friday night, the first proper stage, we're going to be ending up where the WRC ended last year. We're in Mikołajki Arena. Now, last year they had a lap of the arena as part of the final stage. This year, that's not going to happen. But we do have 2 trips to the arena, and the first one is going to be on the Friday night. You can't win the rally on this Super Special. However, as we know from the WRC's first visit here, for poor Jari-Matti Latvala, you could certainly lose the rally here. Saturday's 2 loops will open with the Sviatino stage at 16.3 kilometers. It's slightly shorter than the version we saw in the WRC last year, which was at 18.5 kilometers. The route deviates slightly onto a different stretch of road around 6 kilometers into the stage. It turns left to the junction where I believe they sort of veered to the right or just stayed on the road. And it will rejoin about 5 kilometers from the finish of the stage as well. I think part of this road did appear in 2015 as part of the Majori test, or part of the Zalesi test in 2011 or 2010. But there will be some bits of this that again are going to be new to competitors this year. The second test of the loops will be Oleko. At 20 kilometers, I believe that makes it the longest of the day and the joint longest of the rally as well. The test is longer than it was last year in the WRC, and actually it's an extended starting section as well. It joins on, if you were watching it in the WRC last year, it joins on about 10 kilometers from the end of the stage. So where it was the first 3 kilometers last year, which used part of the 1816N road, that's not going to be used this time around. It made up the Sviatino test, actually, back in previous years, 2018, for example. But whilst some of these roads will be familiar, again, there'll be a stretch from around 5 kilometers into the stage to at least around 8-9 kilometers into the stage that will be new for competitors. And it's pretty flat out in some parts. The third stage of the loop will be the Stareucci test, 13.6 kilometers. This last appeared in 2019. I believe this is the test that you can have a go at in Dirt Rally 2, because I have a feeling that part of this around one of the Great Masurian Lakes is one of the ones where it's got the hairpin around the hay bales. And then the stretch through Shishinovo, though it looks slightly different to the stage just in some bits of the junctions to the one that we had in the Dirt Rally 2 title. 13.6 kilometers, and then at the end of the second loop, as I mentioned earlier, our second trip to Mikołajki Arena. The Mikołajki test will open the second loop. Now, this might be slightly deceptive, but it doesn't use any of the roads from the Mikołajki test that was the power stage last year in the WRC. In fact, the last time these roads appeared, in part, was the Milki test in 2022. The last time it appeared in full was part of the, firstly, the Gorklo test in 2015, where it was run in the same direction it will be this year. And then it was run in reverse later on in the rally in 2015 as part of the Proprotki test. So a 7.2 kilometer sprint, got some nice spectator-friendly areas. It runs near the Shimoneki Lake, and it looks like it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Then we have the Pojeździ test, 20 kilometers in length, the joint longest of the event and the longest on the Sunday. This test also appeared in the event in 2017, which was the most recent edition for the WRC before last year. That test did not use what is going to be the final 5 kilometers of this year's stage, and in fact it also ran in reverse order. I don't see anything else on rally maps that indicates that some of this stage has been run before, so it could be that unless you are a veteran of this event, you might not remember it. Then the third stage of each of the loops is Gmina Mragowo. This was part of the WRC back last year, but it was also a little bit different. Now, the two stretches of road have both been used before. In fact, you can combine it together with the 2019 Ujranki test and then the 2024 test to Kabina Magrovo, and you will find that the first 8 kilometers or so, first 8.5 kilometers, was used back in 2019 last, and then the remaining 7 kilometers around the other side of the Yuktsi Lake was used last year. 15.2 kilometers this test, and again, it's going to be one that will throw maybe a little bit of a surprise the way of competitors. But as I said before, some of these tests have already been used a couple of times in the history of Rajd Polski in Mikołajki. Some of them have been used numerous times throughout the history. It's really a blend of the past, the present, and doing some things new for this 20th edition. Which means, I believe, we have to think long and hard about the people who are going to be our ones to watch. I mean, if you were going to go for a hometown hero, you'd probably put your money on Miko Marchek. He won in 2022, and it was quite a convincing win as well. But at the same time, Martin Sesks won the last time he was in the ERC 2 years ago. It's probably part of the reason why MRF have brought him back for this event. It's going to be a tricky one to actually try and make a good prediction for, because it's not exactly clear who is going to be on top form. You could easily think that Rupa Korhonen, who's coming off the back of a win in Hungary and a second place last time out in Sweden, is the favourite. I've got something saying that local drivers will win 3 different events this season, and I'm going to put an asterisk next to Ivan Brynildsen for one of them. I would also put an asterisk next to Sesks if he wins here, but I'm going to say keep an eye on Miko Marchek. Rupa Korhonen will probably have a good run of it, but at the same time, one of the things that's great about the ERC is you don't necessarily know who's going to win. With the WRC, you can always go, well, Ogier is going to be up at the front, Tanak's going to be rapid. There are some people who you're like, maybe. But even take in Poland last time out, I know we were on tarmac for Rally Silesia or Ride Swansk, but John Armstrong very nearly won. He could do well on the gravel here. I don't really know who you put your money on. I mean, I name drop Gregor Gib, who has been competitive on the fast gravel events before in the ERC as well. He's been competitive in this event before. But is it going to be one of the full season people, or is it going to be one of the people who's either been called up previously with experience in this event, or somebody who's a national driver doing the one-off here in the ERC? It is really hard to guess. It's really hard to say. But I think I'm going to say that it's either going to be Miko Marchek or Martin Sesks. I think that the Fabi is good at these events. It's flat out. You don't need to worry about the torque and the pull necessarily as much as you would in, say, Scandinavia, where it's all about how you flow through the corners, or Hungary, where there's a lot of stopping and starting and making sure that the car is set up right for the ruts. So compared to a GR Yaris Rally 2, I think this is going to be some good hunting ground for the Fabias. And not only that, but I haven't mentioned the forecast, which I believe will play a factor in this event as well. And that is because it is forecast to rain all the way through to Thursday in the Masurian Lakes region. In fact, I think when I was checking this for some research, there's even been thunderstorm-like weather alert warnings going out as well, which, when I've come across them in Warsaw, are pretty intense. The impact of that will be that road cleaning won't be so much of an, factor when it comes to thinking about where you start. Typically on gravel rallies, when it rains a bit more, it means that the gravel is a bit closely packed together. So as a result, it sort of neutralises the road sweeping effect. And it's not going to be, 30 plus degrees baking hot in those couple of days building up to the weekend. So could it be that some of that moisture stays in the gravel and actually the road cleaning effect isn't as pronounced as we might have seen last time out in Scandinavia? Or like you could see in, for example, the WRC, where they're doing their rough gravel rallies at the moment in places like Portugal or Sardinia, or the next one's in Greece. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? I think on that note, it's time for me to go. Thank you so much for watching and joining, folks. Don't know if you can hear, but I've got an awfully sore throat at the moment, so I am incredibly impressed with myself that I've been able to sit down and record this for so long. I only had to take a break to cough once. But thank you, and until Sunday, hopefully I'll get a review out on Sunday. It's bye for now.